I'm going to challenge you on this, though, James, because what I've heard you say is that you gave up binging and purging the day that you committed to animals and you committed to your year-long silence. So that lends me to believe that it might have been a lack of purpose in your life and meaning. No?
I can totally understand why you would come to that conclusion.
Okay.
But allow me to further explain.
Yes.
So this became such a huge problem in my life, the biggest problem in my life. I felt like such a sham as a health coach. I felt disgusted in myself. I felt so out of control. I was so disappointed. I felt hopeless, like there was no way to come out of this. And just desperate, but also basically giving up, because what else do I do? I've read books. I've wrote affirmations. I've restricted all junk food. I've tried different dieting approaches. What else do I do? I'd never even thought to seek professional help. It didn't even cross my mind. Nobody, not a single soul, knew that I had this issue, except for maybe one girlfriend I had at the time. I think she caught onto it at one point, or she had a suspicion, but I don't know if it was ever confirmed. And anyway, that was just whatever. So potentially one person, but I never told anybody. It was too much shame. I had too much pride in myself to let other people know that I was suffering in such a way. And what happened eventually is that I worked on a cruise ship. This is my 7th year as a personal trainer. And I was introduced to the idea of meditation, something I'd already dabbled with quite a bit, but I became motivated to do a meditation course called Vipassana, which is a 10-day long meditation course. You don't speak for 10 days, you meditate for 12 hours a day. I actually just finished my 9th course 2 days ago, which was phenomenal. But anyway, that's another story. And so this technique that they teach you is about observing your physical sensations and not reacting to them, which is exactly what I needed to come out of my addiction. No matter what your addiction is, if it's cigarettes, if it's sex, if it's television, if it's anything, you get a craving and you react to it. And so what I was learning is to have a craving for food but not react, or just observe it instead of succumbing to it. Instead of running to get rid of the craving by having my drug, or instead of distracting myself by other things so I wouldn't have to deal with my craving. Instead, I started facing this discomfort in my body, and I started coming out of my addiction. This was the process. This still took another year before I came out of it. And then I read a book soon after this course called End Emotional Eating by Dr. Jennifer Tates. I read the back of this book before I bought it. I'm like, oh, another book. I've read them. Like, it doesn't help me because I've just done this meditation course. And then I read the back of this book, and it was basically the meditation course I'd just done, designed for people with addictions to food. Perfect. I read it and I knew straight away, this is it. This is the key. What is in these pages is going to be how I come out of it. And I read it, and I didn't come out of it still straight away, but I knew now I have the techniques to work with, and now it's just a matter of time. Being able to sit with that discomfort longer and longer before I run to the food, longer, and to the point where sometimes it would just fade and pass, and I wouldn't have had to get food at all. Eventually, I just built my strength in these sensations that once would always run me to the fridge and to the supermarket to buy a ridiculous amount of generally junk food. I started being able to sit with them and get stronger and stronger. And then when I was coming out of it, knowing I had something to work with, the day I started my vow of silence is the day I said, from this day on, I'll never consume any animal products. And I'm ready now to take another pledge. From this day on, I will never binge and purge again. And about less than a week later, I was alone. I was doing my vow of silence. I just started. I felt lonely, and I went to food, which was still something I was using as a drug to make myself feel good. I got a tub of vegan ice cream, a liter of vegan ice cream, and I ate that whole thing with half a tub of peanut butter.
Wow.
And that is just the most delicious combination. I ate this whole thing. I felt as disgusting as you can imagine, having so much junk food in my stomach all of a sudden, so much fat. I felt so heavy. And I thought, oh, God, it would be nice. I could so easily, I would never have thought twice about it before. I was going, boom, vomit it straight back up. But this time I thought, yeah, it would be so easy to do that. But you know where that path leads. You've been on that path for however many years now. You made a vow. You made a lot of vows that day. And what, you're going to break this one, so you're going to break the other ones too? You're going to start talking again at some point this year? You're going to stop being vegan at some point this year? No. All these vows are equally meaningful. A vow is a vow. And so I sat with the discomfort, and I hated it. And I woke up the next morning, and I felt better, but I still felt like, I can't believe all that was just stayed in my stomach. I never would usually keep it in my stomach. It would always usually come back up. And it was so uncomfortable. And I just thought, wow, okay, well, at least it was better than what I would usually do, purging it back up. So it was still progress. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. The next time when I binged, I was 95% into my binge. And then I thought, you know what? Although I'm already 95% in, it's still better to stop at 95% than 100%. I could still have a few less chocolate biscuits, and it's gonna still be better. Yeah. And then the next time I binged, it was a little better and a little better. And over time, I stopped having the will to binge. I knew I was going to feel disgusting. I thought that disgusting feeling is worse than me sitting with the craving of binging in the first place. That's the point it got to. And yeah, I mean, I never binged and purged again. These days, I would like you to try to find someone who has a better relationship with food than I do. I only eat when I'm hungry. I stop when I'm full. I eat only the healthiest whole foods. You don't have,
so when you're emotionally uncomfortable, you don't think of food anymore to go to? Are you able?
Absolutely not. I have a technique to use now, the Vipassana meditation technique. I don't need food anymore. Basically, it is just, it's like my cancer, just completely in my past. I've been in remission for 15 years, completely. There's been no trace of any complication ever since. Like a flu I had is how I look at my eating disorder now. It is just, you mentioned that you're both recovering, and I would just never use that word for myself. I am recovered, completely recovered.
I think Dotsie feels she's recovered. I don't feel I'm recovered. And Dotsie, interestingly, you had
we're gonna have a contest later to see who's more recovered, you or me, because I'm with you, buddy. 20 years of just not a second of food being a demon in my life.
And Dotsie actually had you used the same technique as James did with her therapist, and which I thought was interesting. You both found your therapy, this kind of technique, in a bookstore, because she saw a flyer about a talk in a bookstore, and you read this book, which helped you. Of course, you learned it first through your meditation, but you had the blue dots that you. For our listeners who want to hear more about Dotsie's journey, I did interview Dotsie a few months ago, and you can learn more about. But the same technique about you putting a dot down and then sitting with the feeling, even if it's for 5 seconds,
and diving into it and locating it in my body and it's walking through the meditation with it.
Perfect. That is, I think, the way to do it. If your problem is, and it generally is, you're reacting to these sensations of craving, or you have a craving of discomfort, and you think the best way to react to that is to go and numb it with food or whatever drug it is. Either way, the actual technique to come out of those reaction patterns that are causing you suffering is to observe them and become comfortable with this discomfort. And then you don't need to run here or there. You can just sit with it. And as every sensation, every craving that has ever come to you, they're all impermanent. They will all pass. So there's no need to run. It'll pass in its own time anyway. And when it passes, it's not throwing you up or down. You can just be with it and be strong, be solid and stable, no matter what comes up inside of you.
So thank you so much for tuning in today. If we helped you in any way, then click the subscribe button and let's keep hanging out together. We have so much more to share with you.
And if you need more information on actually making the switch for good,
please visit us at switchforgood.org for loads of info, and you can subscribe to our mailing list where you will receive all sorts of super cool gifts, discount codes to our very fave dairy-free products, and a lifetime of powerful health tips.
So join us on the journey to switch for good. This is the future.